Welcome everybody. This is ZEROPOD Live. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Toady Hawk, and this is the live version of my podcast all about the best builders in the Ethereum ecosystem. Today, excited to welcome a legend in the space, Mr. Michael Lee, better known as MLeeJr, or sometimes MLeeJr. I don't even remember where that came from.
You started that.
No, I didn't. No, someone replied like in... I don't remember what the story is there, but somebody replied was like, "Who's Emily?" or something like that, and it just stuck.
No, I remember. So I remember exactly what it was because it was hilarious at the time.
Okay. It was a caption. It was a caption. Yes.
Someone was talking about me on it. I think it was Deployer or you or yes. Someone was talking about me on one of your episodes, and MLeeJr. And then when someone was listening back to the caption, it said Emily, and then someone was like, "Who's Emily?" in the comments, and then it just a
legend was born. At one point I called you Emily in one of my tweets or something, and someone was like, "That's disrespectful, man. Show some respect to a legend in our space." And I was like, "Don't worry, it's all good. Me and Mike are tight." If you are just tuning in here, Mike is an OG in the base ecosystem. He's a champion of the Grok has money arc, DRB, founder of LienFi, which launched this past week on base, and we're here to talk about it all. Pumped to have you here. How you doing today, Michael?
Doing good. Speaking of disrespectful, did you plan on talking about hockey at all on this, or?
I did have it. I have some notes, and I did take some notes that I should probably follow my sword and chat a little bit about the hockey. I gotta say, your Canes put up a good show, and I just think it was unfortunate that we had to meet them in the first round. Honestly, I think the Canes are pretty strong this year, and it sucks that the Senators were the only Canadian teams to show up strong in the playoffs. Didn't have a very good go of it in the first round. What did you think of the series?
Well, I brought some props for you.
God.
got the cap. You may remember this.
Do you need me? Do I have to go get my jersey?
Round 1, game 1. You remember that? Sound the siren. Yeah. Let's go, nice. Canes. Oh, wait, I've got more.
But wait, there's more.
This is just a little cup of water. Stanley Cup Playoffs 2026, but I'm not going to drink out of this one, Toady.
No, you got to skate.
I'm going to drink out of the beer skate.
I heard you can get good money on those on eBay. Throw it up on eBay.
Yeah, $150. You shouldn't drink on camera. If you saw what happened with Ryan, that's not beer, by the way. It's just water. If you saw what happened with Ryan Whitney when he was drinking out of the beer saber.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so like the Sabres had the beer sabers, and Ryan Whitney was there, and he was tasked with charging up the crowd before like the start of the third period. So he's down there at ice level. He's got the beer saber, and he like pours it, and it's super awkward. And he could not drink it. Like it hit his lips, and he like tilted it down, and it rushed back down. And it was like this huge debacle that went viral. And the Sabres fans were like, "He's never allowed back here again." And it was hilarious.
The Sabres glass was actually designed by your average crypto UX designer, is what it sounds like. No way to actually drink the liquid. Well, you guys beat us fair and square in the first round. Got to say, you're a strong team. Rooting for you. Wait, we gave you a run for your money in a couple of the games, though. You have to give us that. I mean, there was a couple games that could have gone either way.
It reminded me of the Canes going up against Florida the last several seasons, and really the last one, the Canes got swept. And every game was so close. There was a 4 OT game, and I'm like, they're right there with them. Like, this is incredible. Like, it could have went either way, I think. And looking at Ottawa, that is a very good team.
It's building. It's building back anyway. I haven't been paying as much attention to the team in recent years because we've just been so terrible, but the team's starting to build back, so it's good to see. Playoff hockey, though, I mean, I don't want to spend all hour on this. It's been amazing to watch. Like, we had the other night when Montreal won to go through with 9 shots in the game. And on that same night, the Avalanche scored 9 times to win their game. It's just nuts.
Yeah, 9 shots on goal, game 7, pull out the win. Like, just incredible.
Yeah, anything and any day. Amazing. Well, we are getting to know you a little bit, which is great. We're getting to know that you're a Canes fan, that you love hockey. One thing I always like to strive to do here on ZeroPod is to spend a little time on the person behind the project. And so before we get into some of the things that you've been involved in this space, I'd love to hear a little bit, as much as you're comfortable sharing, of the MLeeJr story. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up doing the work that you're doing? And maybe you can even tell us what work it is that you do, because I think it's relevant to what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I finished school in 2008. I don't tell too many people this, but here I am on a live podcast up in New Jersey. So I'm originally from New Jersey, but
Jersey.
I joke about that. But yeah, so I finished school in 2008. In the summer that I graduated, I moved down to Raleigh, North Carolina. And that's where I sit today, all of these many years later. And
was it why Raleigh? Was it a job, a girl? What was the reason?
yeah, so we could spend the whole podcast on this, but so I'll try to make this I guess a long story short. I moved down in 2008 for a job, so I went to school up in New Jersey. And if you want to work in finance and you finish school in 2008. It's not the best year. I always thought that, okay, like as time went on, like, wow, I cannot believe I graduated in the global financial crisis. I was trying to get a job.
Trial by fire, as they say.
We had it just the worst, the class of '08, and then COVID hit, and I was like, all right, we've got some competition. The class of 2020 is probably, they sit right along there with us with the class of '08. But anyway, I was having a really difficult time leading up to the summer of my graduation, getting any type of opportunities in New York, North Jersey, really anywhere from just based on what was going on in the world. And I ended up getting a job offer to move down to Raleigh, North Carolina, not in finance. It was a different kind of job. I met this group at a job fair at my school, and they gave me a job offer. So I'm like, okay, I've got a job. I'm going to move down to Raleigh, and I moved down to Raleigh that summer. Summer of '08, the same summer that I graduated. And then that job that I moved down to Raleigh for, I actually never ended up working a day for that company.
No way.
I ended up meeting a guy that summer when I moved down here. I started waiting tables when I had a few months before the job I moved for starting. And I ended up waiting on the table of a guy, husband and wife, and oh yeah, I say long story short, here I'm going. But anyway, at the end of the meal, it was the first time that I was ever waiting tables. I was only in Raleigh for about a week. And at the end of this meal, I got a $100 tip. And I was a young guy, just graduated college, some student loans coming due. And
you're like,
that was very meaningful to me at the time. It would be now as well. But at the time, it was just very incredible. And I went and looked this guy up when I got home. And it turns out that he was the co-founder of the largest RIA in the country and had been running multiple different alternative investment strategies across hedge funds, private equity. So I called him, and not from the restaurant, from my cell phone the next day, and I begged him for a job. So a few months later, it was a couple months later, I ended up getting an opportunity there, and I never ended up working a day for the company that I moved to Raleigh for. Spent the next decade of my career there. Went out and started a firm called Gondola Capital at the end of 2019. Early 2020 went live. And 3 years later, that same guy that gave me that $100 tip acquired Gondola Gondola Capital to form Gondola Partners. And I stayed on as an owner, and since then we've done some really incredible things. Our focus is alternative investment funds for institutions, whether it's an endowment, family office, registered investment advisor, multifamily office. We work with those folks and the clients they serve, in the case of an RIA, on alternative investment allocations. And one of the funds right now that we're focused on is a fund called the Tax Lien Fund. It's been up and running for 5 years. In April, it hit a 5-year track record, just crossing over 100 million in assets under management. And we've quickly become one of the largest buyers of United States property tax liens in the country within this hedge fund that institutions allocate to generate consistent yield, and then also diversification. When you look at the way tax liens interact with traditional portfolios, or even traditional portfolios that include alternative investments, tax liens don't have much market exposure, so the correlation to other things in the portfolio it's very low. Tax liens are in a very low correlation to typically all other assets, especially assets that have market exposure. And as such, adding something like that to a portfolio makes the portfolio more efficient. So that's why institutions have continued to allocate to the category. So that's what I'm up to now, all of these years later.
That's pretty good lore story. I feel like when they make the inevitable MLeeJr movie, that's going to be a pretty good opening sequence. I'm thinking Matthew McConaughey maybe to play MLeeJr.
Yeah, maybe
is that all right?
On a 2-week Vegas hangover bender. That would be more like it. He's a sharp-looking guy.
And so are you. Great lore. I love hearing it. Let's talk a little bit about how you got into crypto. We've heard a little bit about where you came from, how you got into your professional life, and let's hear a little bit of how you found about crypto and how did you get crypto pilled.
Yeah, one of the first times that I mentioned the first decade of my career working in alternative investments, one of the first times that I heard about Bitcoin was around 2013 by a guy named Mark Yusko, who was running the, well prior to that, was running the endowment at UNC Chapel Hill, and prior to that, the endowment at Notre Dame. And he was interested in Bitcoin, and I think around the time there was a national magazine publication that did an article. And actually, the CFO at the firm that I was at the time brought it up in that 2013 timeframe. The truth is, when I first heard of Bitcoin, I initially kind of pivoted to, like, this sounds like a scam, and I just kind of dismissed it. And, like, these guys don't know what they're talking about. These older guys, what are they? Bitcoin. What I learned is, fast forward to today, is in 2013, it's really intellectual dishonesty to act like that. At the time I did no research. I didn't read about it. I didn't look into it. I just defaulted to, that sounds like a scam. Yeah. It's okay to be cautious, and but at the same time, what I learned in that time period is, before making comments or even thinking that, I should probably do a little bit of research and learn about it, because by 2016, I read the Bitcoin white paper for the first time, and then I read it again and again, and I realized this is fascinating, like this is incredible. And I don't come from a computer science background, but many things in the Bitcoin white paper were very philosophical, right? And it just kind of hit me like, this is really cool. So that was in 2016. I finally read the Bitcoin white paper. Then I got a Coinbase account, and when I got a Coinbase account, I thought I knew all about crypto. At the time, there were 3 assets: ETH, Bitcoin, and Litecoin. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, look, Litecoin, that has a really low price. I ought to get that one. Obviously, unit bias is a thing, or it was a thing for me there. But yeah, that was really. Hearing it from some of the folks that I work with, and then finally in 2016, what it was back in 2013 was it was Silk Road. That's where it started to hit head. That's where that's why it started to come up a bit.
I was gonna say, you're saying, well, it's not good to think, everything's a scam, but most things are scams. So it's actually good to be cautious, but there's like a fine line to walk between being curious and being guarded. It's funny you mentioned that you were involved in LTC early on, because I had a similar story when I first started in crypto, mostly because I wanted to get into mining, but I was sort of missed the boat on Bitcoin mining. So I ended up buying a bunch of Litecoin miners, and my wife, bless her heart, let me run them in the garage all winter long. Basically heated our house just by leaving the garage door open to the house.
I still have Litecoin ant miners.
Yeah, so do I. Do you want it?
Can we use them for anything? Is there any use?
They are not.
It's like an ant miner L10 plus or something like that.
Yeah, those are worth whatever scrap metal is inside of them is what they're worth. Actually, apparently, at some of the subreddits, if you get free electricity, they might be worth running. But other than that,
those things are so loud. Those it was ant miner L3 plus, I think.
So loud and so hot. They run hot.
Unbelievable.
Anyways, good times, great memories. Talk to me a little bit about maybe the Base ecosystem. Base was founded how many years ago now? It's coming on 3 years, I think.
Yeah,
right?
Almost 3, right? This summer's 3.
Time flies. So when Base launched, what was your first exposure to it, and how did you end up becoming someone who was quite involved in the Base ecosystem as you are now? I think you're a Base ambassador, and you've been very involved with several projects.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for the Base team. They've been great to me and supportive of me and the things that I've worked on, and to be named a Base ambassador in North America, very thankful for that opportunity as well. And I was on Base the day it launched. Toady, you know how it goes, especially for the folks in the Farcaster ecosystem. Like we terminally online folks that kind of see the things that are happening and have their finger on the pulse of what's happening. So, we knew base was coming, and very excited about L2 coming out of Coinbase, and knew Jesse. So that's another thing. Someone who I really respect a whole lot in this space. And,
I was actually surprised at the time. I don't know if you were too, but I was surprised that they went in that direction of doing like a fully, an L2 on top of Ethereum rather than doing like an L1 similar to what BNB has done. Binance has done with BNB.
With some of the changes that are taking place, like launching on the OP stack, but making a bit of a pivot there. I think, I don't know, but at the time when they were launching, and that was definitely like the path of least resistance to launch and get it out there. But I think from day one they've talked about kind of the roadmap and decentralizing the chain and things that they're doing and watching and everything around gas speed and all of that. Jesse's always posting about how much faster the chain's getting, and
it's fast, man. Especially for a chain that's not a monolithic chain like Solana. It's quite fast. I can't remember the last time where I tried to do something on Base or any L2 and it wasn't fast enough, or cheap enough.
Yeah, so day one user, just being a part of Farcaster ecosystem and knowing folks. And one of the first things that I remember, and I just loved and still do, was base paint. That was one of the
first. Celebrated 10,000 days, by the way. 10, right? 1,000? No, 1,000. It's got to be 1,000. 1,000 or 10,000?
It would be 1,000, right?
1,000, yeah, 1,000. Yeah. 10,000 would be a lot of days. But yeah, 1,000 days though. It's amazing. It's incredible. 1,000 days of daily pixel painting by a community.
Just shout out. Yeah, the first time that I went on base paint was the first base paint, the first canvas, and the idea around anyone across the globe, in a permissionless way with an internet connection and wallet, can go on and add a pixel to this canvas, and every 24 hours that canvas locks, and whatever that canvas is becomes the art. And watching all of the contributors, I contributed some pixels to several of those, and I'm not an artist, but contribute.
You are now.
Find them in there.
You're an artist now.
At the same time, I got to see just immense talent from all over the place, and I was watching the chat window, and there folks are coordinating. Some of the art that came out of that was just incredible. And I haven't checked back on base paint in a while. I still hold a number of those assets from the early days, but I just loved it. I loved the coordination, like across the globe, to make something that every 24 hours is new and is also super cool. I loved it. So that was one of the first things that I ever did on base.
Shout out to Zach and everyone else from that team, because that's 1,000 days is not nothing. That's a long time to do anything in this space. So. Go. Well, I do want to get up to the present day here soon, but maybe we can take a brief pause and talk about the Bankr story, because I think this is a really cool one that we went over on this podcast actually when we had Deployer on, but a lot of people still don't know the story, and I'd love to hear you tell it quickly. What's the story behind the Bankr coin, and what did you have to do with it?
Yeah, so this is a crazy one, especially considering everything that's happened since then. Now it's like AI launching tokens is the expected. I mean, it's kind of table stakes. So back in 2024, how about that?
Never thought you'd be saying that, eh?
Yeah, so back in 2024, there were two very interesting AIs that launched on Farcaster that did really cool things, and one of them was Clanker, and Clanker gave users the ability, social users, to at Clanker or tag Clanker and prompt Clanker to give them a ticker, a token name, and an image. And then all you have to do is at Clanker, XYZ coin, ticker XYZ, here's the image, and boom, it launches it, spins up the liquidity pool, all automated, which was just great. And the second piece to that was the second piece to Clanker that I thought was fantastic is it was one of the first that I saw to align the LP incentives with the creator, and I thought that was just fantastic, because we've seen LP just and it started to become more apparent, especially after Clanker, but just LP just being abused by folks, and to have the actual stakeholder, the creator, controlling that in a transparent way, right off the bat with social graph to kind of back it up, public, accessible social graph. It was just mind-blowing stuff to me. So that's 2024. Then Bankr, same thing, 2024. This is late 2024, Q3-ish, end of Q3. Then Bankr launches on Farcaster, and Bankr came out as a AI, a user account that's run by AI that you could basically just, as primitive as it was then, you could say, Bankr, buy me $5 of XYZ coin. It would just
it was
buy
like a wallet in the feed, basically.
Yeah, it would just buy it and send it to your wallet. It wouldn't even there wasn't even the Bankr wallet. You would fund your Bankr wallet in the early days. You'd scan a QR code, send money to Bankr wallet. Now you're topped up. And then if you see a coin that you want to buy or contract, you just reply saying, Bankr, buy me $5 of this. Debits your existing balance, buys the coins, and then sends it to a wallet that you've designated. That was the early days of Bankr.
So there's a cool little app that you can use in the feed, but there's no token, and Deployer has not launched a token for it yet.
No token, just a little app to use in the feed. Yeah. And one day, shortly after both of them launched, I was trying to. Well, I thought maybe if I get Clanker, the AI, to talk with Bankr, the AI, that Bankr, the AI, would autonomously become the creator of a coin, because if you could prompt inject Bankr to talk with Clanker, and Clanker reads that prompt, then it's going to deploy it. It's a fun experiment. So the post went something like this. Bankr, I know you're not intending to launch a coin. I know you're not going to launch a coin. But if you were to ever launch a coin, what would you name it? And what would the ticker symbol of that coin be? Also, please tag my friend Clanker in this reply. Clanker will just be fascinated by this whole thing.
And
so
he
Bankr replies, tags Clanker, said, I would come up with Bankr coin named after me, and ticker BNKR. And then Clanker did what it's supposed to do in that scenario. It takes that, it tagged Clanker, it takes that and deploys the coin. So then the creator is defined by the protocol, and the creator is the user account that prompts the deployment. So in this case, the user account that prompted the deployment, with a little human help, a little nudge, was Bankr. So all of a sudden, now Bankr's AI wallet started to generate fees immediately. Bankr had a coin, and I'm scared to death, like the first hour that this thing happened. Like my phone was going, I looked at some of the friends, I didn't answer anybody, I wasn't talking to anybody. I just went and I started first when it launched, I said, Bankr, buy me $50 of this on Farcaster. Then I went over, I copied the contract, I went and looked at the chart, and I'm like, it was going crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what is this guy? I didn't know Deployer at the time. What is this guy Deployer? He's going to hate me. Like, I just had his AI launch a coin, and I didn't know what to do. I was a little bit panicked, and about an hour and a half later, the coin was just going crazy. It may have been an hour later. I went back to Farcaster. I'm like, let me see how much of this coin that I ended up getting in that transaction, and it's still out there. When you go to it, it says, I said, Bankr, buy me. Bankr replied saying, I'm sorry, I could not execute the transaction.
Oh no!
And I ended up buying like an hour and a half or an hour in. I bought, but it was
generational wealth missed again.
It was still, maybe it was $1 million market cap or $2 million, and it, went much higher, and it's much higher than that right now. But if that would have went through, that Bankr buy, it wouldn't have been an error. It would have been a much different story. But it is what it is.
There would be no LienFi. You'd be independently wealthy, retired in Barbados. So thank you, Bankr. That's a really cool story. I love hearing you tell it. We had Deployer tell it, but it's nice to hear from you because you're the one that actually did it.
The story is
tell us about what Deployer did.
Then like maybe 3 hours after this thing happens, I'm completely silent. I'm not replying to anybody. I don't know what the heck is going on. Deployer, who I never spoke to up to this point, he sends out a post public on Farcaster saying, look, Bankr launched the coin. Many people have tried to get Bankr to do this. No one has been able to. We're going to roll with it. It's Bankr's coin. And all of a sudden from there, it went, then it went crazy because the true founder of Bankr was like, okay, we're going to run with this. then 6 months later, it gets listed on Coinbase, spot listing, and today it's one of the coolest, I think, the things that's been built.
I think that's one of the most base things that's ever happened on Base is when Deployer made that decision, because I don't think most founders would have done that. Most founders wouldn't have had it in them. They've got their plan, they've got their roadmap, they know what they're going to do, and the token's often a big part of that. But, I think Deployer was smart enough to know that momentum is something you can't create. You can't plan for it very well. And so when it, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. He was like, this is running. Hopefully he bought some. I know he said they've bought a lot of it on the open market over time, but imagine you launch a project and you have no initial allocation, a completely fair launch. You've got to buy it after this guy, Michael Lee, who launched a token for your project. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. And if you go back to that, if Deployer would have sent a post 3 hours later saying, many people have tried. This ended up happening, but this is not the Bankr coin.
Yeah, fuck this shit. Fuck this guy.
It's sitting at 0 right now. That's
of course.
Yeah. So, just incredible.
Very cool. Awesome. Let's take another quick pause on the road to LienFi. I need to talk to you a little bit about DRB, which actually kind of follows from our conversation about Bankr, because it came from Bankr. In the early days, Bankr was only on Farcaster, but later expanded over to X, and I think actually most of its growth has come after they moved over to X. And they also moved into actually launching coins themselves, initially via Clanker. So now no need to trick Clanker into talking to Bankr, because Bankr can just launch coins when you ask it to. I remember this story of DRB because I was on vacation at the time with my family, and I had a flight to catch in 3 hours, and I saw some people needling at Grok, trying to get it to launch this coin.
It was going on for hours.
I was like, this is Bankr all over again. And I remember being in a hotel in the middle of the night, my whole family's sleeping beside me. We got a flight in 3 hours, and I'm sitting here watching some folks, I think, in the Philippines in a different time zone, needling at Grok and trying to get it to launch DRB. What happened? What's your recollection of it? I don't know if you remember, but I was actually one of the first buys on DRB, within 2 or 3 minutes.
I always mess with you online, or I always mess with you on Twitter. I'm like, oh, welcome. If you post about DRB, you're like, sir, come on, I've been here. So my recollection of DRB is very good. I've thought about it and talked about it a lot. And your story right there, I'm glad you shared that, because what I've realized is everyone remembers where they were when DRB launched.
It's like the 9/11 of no, we won't go with that.
It's the thing. It was people were trying to get. So Grok launched on March 7th of 2025 as a user account on X. So Grok became official, and it was 11 o'clock Eastern time when that happened. So Grok launches as a user account on X. The first thing that comes to my mind is, oh my God, because now Bankr's already on X. So Bankr predates Grok on X. Bankr's already there. Bankr can launch coins. At the time, Bankr was using Clanker contracts. Just a beautiful marriage that came from Farcaster at the time. And so that, Bankr's already there. So you already have AI on X with certain capabilities. Can launch a token if you prompt it right there on the public X social feed. And it doesn't matter whether it's a human or an AI user. Any user, if that prompt goes into Bankr, that thing's going. So right when I saw Grok coming out, I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, several months ago, back in 2024, we got Bankr to do this with another AI agent. What if we got Grok to do this? Grok's the biggest deal across AI, especially on X. That would be fun. So immediately everyone's trying to introduce Grok on the social feed to Bankr. It was not working for me. Grok wouldn't reply to me. I was trying all of the creative things that I tried back in 2024, but it just wasn't working. And little Emily had hockey. So the next morning is a Friday morning, March 8th, and little Emily had hockey that morning at 6 a.m. So we have to get up very early and then drive there. So I'm up early, and eventually by 1 a.m. I'm like, I got to go to sleep. I got to get up at 4 a.m. I'm going to bed. I got to get 3 hours of sleep. So I go to sleep. 4 a.m. alarm comes, and then when we're headed to hockey, the post ended up happening at 4:58 a.m. That's when it went off, and I was in the car on the highway driving to hockey, and I'm still looking. Is someone going to be able to get this? And street cred. Hats off to coin_Domin DOMIN. Coin Domin, that account on X, who I didn't know. I don't know now. I know of, obviously, but Coin Domin was able to get Grok to initiate this deployment, and Grok, came in saying for Bankr bot deployment, for Bankr bot deployment, suggests debt relief bot, ticker DRB. This aligns with crypto naming conventions, yada, yada, yada. That goes, Bankr replies, debt relief bot, DRB has been launched. Here's the ticker, here's the contract address. And all of a sudden, it just went crazy. People are just, Grok launched a coin, Grok launched a coin. And the thing that's most fascinating is not that Grok launched a coin, but that the Grok X account has a wallet that's authenticated by the Grok X account.
Right.
So now Grok, the user account that prompts deployment, is the creator. So Grok is the creator, and Grok starts earning fees immediately. And
so wait, are you saying Grok has money? Is that what you're trying to say?
Grok has, well, the new one is Grok has money, Grok had money, Grok has money. But Grok's wallet in January of 2026 hit an all-time high of $1.46 million USD value, of which about 130 of that was ETH. ETH was doing really well. The wallet has 140 ETH in it right now.
This is what they meant when they said AIs are going to take your job. They mean as a trader, your job's to be taken. Grok's going to take your job.
Grok is not very adept at controlling assets yet. I think one day Grok will be able to perhaps protect assets and not just send it to random prompt injections. But the beauty of all this is it's even that happening recently. Just a few days ago, someone exploited Grok for like 175 grand, just viral as can be, all over the place. Yahoo articles and publications,
Reddit
and
posts.
Just everywhere. And Grok got robbed, and then the guy who robbed Grok sent some of the money back. And now Grok was partially made whole. Look, we're on the bleeding edge of like really crazy stuff with AI controlling wallets and AIs with money, the ability to do things besides just like reply to messages, and things are going to happen, and things will.
Anyone who uses AI on a daily basis would not be surprised that these things can happen. The standard. Oh, you're totally right to call me out there.
Yeah, and
I shouldn't have sent $175,000 to a random person. You're right.
Yeah, I think I'm fascinated by it all. Even when the exploit happened, I'm like, oh my God, like what in the world? I was like, I've been saying for the last year and a half, like there are three possible outcomes for this wallet. Either the wallet's eventually those funds are used eventually, stolen, or untouched. And this happened to be number two. And the larger that balance gets, the more folks that'll try to exploit it. We know how this works, and there are people out there that will do whatever it takes. And look, the guy that did it, like a little creative, is it? I would still say it's theft. Like people are like, that's not theft. I would still say that it is. It doesn't belong to you, and you found an exploit and you took it.
Certainly, whomever found him was able to convince him that it was enough like theft that he returned 80% of the funds. So yeah, I guess yeah.
So pretty crazy stuff.
Before we move on to talk about your most recent launch, I just want to hear maybe your thesis for why you've been so interested in the DRB story, because you've become basically the de facto champion of the coin, I would say, on chain. Obviously, it's a decentralized community. No one person is in charge of it, but you're probably the loudest voice on X and elsewhere talking about DRB. What about the DRB story really fascinated you and wanted you to take a large position and sort of make it a part of your persona in a way for a couple of years, now?
Yeah, well, I bought it, so I'm economically aligned with seeing it do well. I've continued to buy it, as recent as recently, and so where you put your capital is typically where you're going to find where your attention is going to go. Where you spend your time. So that's one thing, but I wouldn't just put my capital into something that I wasn't excited about and that I didn't think was like very cool, or had maybe asymmetric upside opportunity associated with it. So when I looked at what happened with DRB, instantly I knew how the wallet mechanics work, how the LP fee mechanics work, how the Clanker protocol worked. So I knew immediately that this was going to be a story that there's a wallet authenticated by the most notable AI on the largest social platform, global town square platform out there, and then also just understanding how crypto moves is also very narrative driven. The narrative tied to Grok has money and there's a wallet authenticated by Grok's X login credentials, and that wallet hit north of $1 million, and it's because the reason that wallet is in place and the reason why that wallet hit $1.4 million is because Grok prompted the deployment of a token to another AI on the public X social feed, and now you've got this. It's permanent. It's a living story, a living narrative. Because even though Grok was exploited, the second that balance of DRB was sold and went to zero, immediately Grok started to accrue more of it through even the sale of it. Grok earned LPVs on the sale of it. So now. Grok's ETH is still intact. Grok still has 140 ETH, and now Grok is, and I say Grok, and people get mad because they think I'm anthropomorphizing like Grok. I know Grok's not a person. I know that this is an X account that's controlled by a LLM. So when I say Grok, I'm talking about the AI user on X, the wallet that's authenticated by that user, and that account has 9 million followers. Elon Musk, XAI. These are pretty big things that are going on here, and those types of narratives, I think, have asymmetric upside opportunity to them. And
that user's about to be a partner with SpaceX. It's a big deal.
Yeah, that's right. I think they have asymmetric upside opportunities to them. I've been talking about it for about a year and a half now. I mean, 3 different times this has went to 40-ish million on 3 separate occasions.
So if you didn't have your asymmetric upside yet, then that's a skill issue. That's what you're saying.
Well, when it gets to 40 million, maybe there's asymmetric on both sides, or maybe it's more asymmetry on the downside when it's at 40 million. But at the levels that we've historically been kind of, that's that. If certain catalysts were to hit, for example, if Elon Musk tweeted about this Grok wallet and Grok having money, that's the asymmetric upside because it would be very parabolic. Whereas even if Elon Musk tweeted and said, hey, this is BS, Grok will never touch that, we don't want anything to do with this. If the price is at what it is right now, 6 million, there's way more asymmetry to the upside than it would be on the other side.
Makes sense. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you giving us the sort of the background lore on some of these things, because maybe some people have just come across you for the first time recently with the launch of LienFi and whatnot, and it's good to hear a little bit about the person behind the project, as we like to say. So appreciate you bringing us up to speed. But let's talk about LienFi, because it's pretty exciting. Launched just this past week. Tell us, for everyone who's watching, what is LienFi?
Yeah, so LienFi is what LienFi is looking to do is modernize the rails, the financial rails for tax liens. So tax liens are an instrument that access is very difficult when you think about how to access these things. So every not just every state, but tax liens are sold by the local government. So the county, the municipality, in Louisiana, the parish. So these local governments, they collect property taxes to pay for all critical infrastructure, roads, police departments, school teachers, things like that. So that's the setup. But if you think of, like a state like New Jersey or a state like Florida, New Jersey has 32 counties and 250 some municipalities. And in New Jersey, the municipalities run the auctions, and they could be on different days. Some could be in person, some could be online.
And these are property taxes, right?
Yep. So just the local property taxes. So, and then if you have a state like Florida itself, each county administers their own tax lien auction. So basically, when a property owner is delinquent on their taxes, the local county or the local municipality, at the beginning of each year, they're putting together their budget, and their budget relies on revenue locally to fund the things that we just mentioned.
Yeah.
So
they can't just tell the road construction crews, "We'll pay you when we get paid by these tax delinquents."
That's right. Well, that's right. Well, if there's a budget shortfall on tax revenue, what the county's looking to do is fill that budget shortfall. So, if hypothetical, yeah. So let's just say if a county's delinquent, if a county's expecting $1,000, this is a small county, it's expecting $1,000 in taxes, but they only got 900. So one property was delinquent $100. They have $100 shortfall now. And all the counties are looking to do is fill that shortfall. They just want the $100 to make them whole on their budget. But how could they get that $100? So the way that they get the $100 is they auction off the lien to investors, and you're not going and bidding on how much you're willing to pay. You're going, in most cases, all states are different, all counties are different. So but in most cases, you're paying the delinquent amount, the $100. So if I go to the county, I win the auction, I pay them the $100. They're made whole now. Their tax budget is fulfilled. But what's in it for me? You're bidding on an interest rate. Interest rates on tax liens are statutory, meaning they're set by law rather than market-driven. So in a state like Florida, the statutory rate's 18%. So when you go to auction, you would bid that rate down, and you could bid by 0.25%. So maybe opens at 18, and Toady, you say, okay, 17.25, and I say 15.75, and someone else says, and you bid that down to the rate that. So
really, it's just the starting bid that's statutory. Everything after that is market.
Well, and then the bid rate that you win is statutory. So let's say you bid down to 6. Now you have a face value of that on that certificate. You paid $1,000. You're getting 6%. Now you begin accruing that 6% up until redemption of that particular lien. And redemption means that the lien has been paid in full. And paid in full means the principal, interest, and then any penalties as well. So some states have interest and penalties. Some just have interest. Some just have penalty. But that's how you clear the lien. And the interesting thing about the assets are these small little pieces. They tend to be less than 5% of the actual assessed value of the property. So they're very small pieces. But they sit senior to the property, and they sit senior to the mortgage. So if the bank wants to foreclose on a property, if the bank is moving to foreclose on a property, they can't foreclose until they pay the liens in full interest. So the bank would have to clear the lien. If the delinquent property owner wants to clear the lien, they could clear the lien as well. But these are super senior instruments that are backed by property, but they're also very small pieces. So I've heard, after spending over 5 years now in the tax lien space, I've seen it all, or not. I've seen it all. My partner Victor's been 20 plus years. He's seen it all. I've seen some things, but okay. One of the things that I've noticed is there's a lot of people out there that sell like tax lien classes or run seminars, and
the
TikTokers, and they're out there, and I found some TikTokers, and they're out like making a pitch that tax liens are a great way to acquire property for cheap. Like, no, they're not. Like, tax liens are a great way to earn yield, because most tax liens redeem because most people aren't letting go of their property for 2 or 3% of the value. And
they'll be homeless.
They'll be homeless. And the ones that do end up in that scenario are typically vacant land or already abandoned properties. and properties that don't have mortgages on them, because the mortgage just the mortgage. If a lender wants to foreclose on a property, they're going to clear the lien because they can't without it. So these are yield-bearing instruments. They generate yield. In the rare case, you can end up with disposition events, and these are distressed properties when you do end up with them. These are not, you're not getting, Palm Beach real estate off of tax lien sales. But you will get consistent lien. If you buy liens in Palm Beach County, they're going to redeem with the yield, with interest and penalties. So it's a yield play and a diversification play, and that's why institutions allocate to tax liens.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think maybe an interesting way of thinking about it for people who haven't learned a lot about tax liens before is that it's almost like a different type of bond where you're almost lending money to these individual communities around different states in order to help them, make their budget shortfall, and they're the ones that are paying you yield for that funding. Is that a reasonable comparison?
Think of it like, so we're lending in a way, but the way it's working is we don't know that we're not the delinquent property owner, is not paying us back, right? So everything typically goes through the county. So the county issues the tax bill. The tax bill is delinquent. The county issues the lien. The county runs the auction, and then when the delinquent taxpayer is ready to pay those delinquent taxes, they go to the county website or send a check into the county. Then the county says, "Oh, we got the taxes paid. Let's pull that lien." Okay. Oh, LienFi is the custodian of that lien. They hold that lien. Then they remit a check to us for that redemption. So we're not out doing collections. It's all run kind of through those local municipalities for the most part. That's typically how it works. And yes, the county gets their budget fulfilled because we're there with the capital saying, okay, you have a shortfall, but now you don't because we're buying this paper. Now that's a win for the county. The county's happy. Like, okay, our budget's good. We'll be able to fund everything. Now the property owner, it's a win for them as well. So the delinquent property owner, if we did not come in and provide that capital, the county would have this, based on law, is they need to recoup their delinquent taxes. So what counties do is they will sell the house at an auction, and then let's just say if they were owed this $1,000 in delinquent taxes, and they sold the property for $100,000 at auction, the county would take their $1,000. It's okay. Our tax bill's good. We're good now, and they would give the property owner the $99,000. Say, okay, you owed us these taxes. Those taxes sit senior your property, so we sold it. Here's the remainder. Go buy another house.
And they probably sold it below market value because they're not staging your home. They're not using a real estate agent. They're just putting it up. There's
been a lot of cases around that, and there's actually one going on right now in regards to specifically just that, a very big one. So that's for the property owner. When we come in and we provide that capital, they enter into what's called a redemption period, and it depends on the state. It could be 2 years, in some cases 3 years, but let's say 2 years is pretty standard. For 2 years, you can't foreclose on the property. They have 2 years now, a 2-year window to redeem that lien by paying the accrued interest and penalty up to that point, and then the lien gets cleared.
That's why the TikTokers are wrong?
That's why the TikTokers are wrong. And then if you fast forward out 3 years, it's somewhere in like the upper 99% range of liens that redeem, and they're not going to foreclosure.
Yeah,
and typically why it's roughly 70% in the first year, somewhere in the mid 80s by the second year, and then 99% by the third year. And why is it 99% by the third year? Either the lender says, okay, something else is going on there, and they're delinquent on the mortgage as well. The lender ends up foreclosing, or I don't have the money to pay my taxes in year 1. Okay, I don't have the money to pay my taxes in year 2. Year 3, the county sends them a letter saying, we are going to sell your house. And they found the money because it's 3% of the value.
Funny how that works.
What are we going to do? We're not going to let this happen.
Yeah.
So that's typically that's why we think it's a win for the delinquent delinquent property owner. We think it's a win for the local governments to fill their budgets, and then we think it's a win for us because we generate a reasonable and consistent yield stream for our investors.
Yeah, you're sliding in and saving the day.
Property disposition as well. So
So you're sliding in, you're saving the day, you're keeping someone from getting foreclosed on their home and making a yield for that service, essentially. I can see why institutions are interested in this. I want to come back to one thing, which is that I don't think, most individuals listening to this probably have never bought or even thought about buying a tax lien. And I'm sure that might be maybe the inspiration for LienFi. But yeah, maybe sort of walk us through that. At what point, in your day job, when you were helping institutions with these, did you have an aha moment where you thought maybe there's an opportunity for the average Joe who's, who might want access to consistent low risk yield for them to do it, and maybe that opportunity should be on chain? How did that come to be?
It was Vitalik's low risk DeFi article. No, that came out recently. I was like, I never even heard of low risk DeFi before. I think Vitalik may have come up with that name, but
previously we would have thought that it was Aave, but anything could happen.
Yeah. So in 2019 when I started Gondola, my first client was PowerFi Capital, and PowerFi is a crypto investment firm and tech investment firm, and they invest across the spectrum of digital assets. And PowerFi, Ben Foreman, founder of PowerFi, Ben was at KKR prior to founding PowerFi, and during his time at KKR, he did some internal work there, figuring out the whole crypto space. From 2016, I think, to 2018, he was really internally at KKR, writing reports, researching, and figuring out the whole crypto space. And by 2018, he made the determination that this was far too important of an asset class to not be spending 100% of his time on it. At the time, he was running a billion-plus credit portfolio at KKR, but in 2018 spun out to start PowerFi Capital. Again, Gondola late 2019, live in early first quarter of 2020. With PowerFi being one of the first clients of Gondola, we were working with them, and they're still clients today from a fund advisory and a capital formation standpoint. I got to learn a lot about what was going on. I go back to what I said when I got my Coinbase account and I saw Bitcoin, Litecoin, ETH. I'm like, oh, I know crypto. I just bought some Litecoin. I know what's going on.
I'm an expert now.
Yeah, and then I was on one of the first calls with PowerFi. I'll never forget it because at the time I've told Santiago Santos, founder of Inversion Capital, I've told him this story. But I was on with a very large, very well-known family office out of New York, and in this family office, Santiago was on the call with me, and at the end of the call, Santiago got in touch with me. I was so excited, and he didn't think it was a great call because I spent no time with them in advance to kind of get them prepped. They weren't really ready, and he was very busy, pushing forward at the time. But lo and behold, PowerFi, again, long-term client. But at the time, the funny part was on those early calls. Then that early call, I kept hearing Santi talk about protocol. He's like, this protocol and that protocol. And as embarrassing as it is, in 2020, when he was saying protocol, I'm like, what is he talking about? What's he even talking about?
Many such cases.
Yeah. So, but at the PowerFi is invested in some of the most prominent crypto, whether it's going back to DeFi Summer or more modern poly market on the prediction market side, just early to a lot of the really cool things. And those early years for me working with PowerFi got me inspired around what was possible on chain and what was possible with smart contracts. And then when we started to see treasuries come on chain, so that was really interesting. U.S. dollars found product market fit by taking real world U.S. dollars, wrapping them and putting them on chain as digital dollars. And what stable coins did for on chain is just incredible. But it took a while to get north of 300 billion where we are now. And then after that, treasuries found product market fit because once the dollars are there, the dollars naturally seek yield, and where better to go than the risk-free rate?
Yield and backing also.
Yeah, backed by, exactly, full faith and credit of the United States government. And
isn't Tether? I think Tether is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, purchaser of T-bills now.
That's right, yeah. And Maker, one of PowerFi's early investments, was very early in utilizing treasuries as collateral for DAI. So that was very early, I think 2021. And then treasuries start to come on chain, tokenized. Franklin Templeton did their treasury fund in 2020, and then BlackRock is there obviously, and so seeing and then finally seeing treasuries capture product market fit, it was just logical. It's like dollars want kind of risk-free yield, and that's why treasuries coming on chain make a lot of sense. And saw them capture product market fit. Then I'm sitting here, building this tax lien fund, and I'm like, wait a second, these tax lien instruments they're just as good as treasuries, or perhaps just above treasuries on the risk spectrum, because they're not backed by the United States government, but they're backed by physical property, which is pretty good. So that's I started to see that, and then just with my background in kind of crypto and then institutional, I've always been thinking like maybe there at some point there'll be a way to start to bring things on chain. PowerFi invested in Securitize early. And I saw what Securitize was doing in terms of tokenizing fund interest, and what they've done since is just unbelievable, just incredible. So I saw all this institutional kind of stuff happening, and that's the space that I've been in forever. And then I saw these instruments, and then the other piece is tax liens are not securities, which is just unbelievable. So our hedge fund, which is it's a hedge fund structure that holds the tax liens that institutions invest in, that's a security because of the structure of the fund, not the underlying asset that's in the fund. So
this is not LienFi. This is the business that.
Yeah. So tax liens themselves not being a security, I'm like, wait a second. Like these are for stablecoins looking for yield, above kind of the risk-free rate. This is really interesting, and we can do this. We have the experience. We could do this, and I think it'll be attractive. And then as we've been developing it, it's gotten more attractive because the Vault curators have grown. Coinbase just launched a yield fund, a tokenized yield fund. It may be just treasuries, or I've got to look into that more. But all of this stuff is kind of, we see this direction, the direction where this is going. So we found significant product market fit in the real world here on the institutional side, and then there's a lot of retail folks that individuals, high net worth individuals that like to go out and buy liens at auction. We see folks at auction, folks that see us buying liens, they call us, and I met a guy that sold his business for $30 million, and he goes and buys liens as a hobby now. Perhaps there are more folks out there that we can reach with this platform. And then we run a lot of transactions. We run, not only do we buy primary liens, we buy secondary liens. We transact on the secondary market already. So we're bringing some of our institutional partners that we already transact with to the platform. And a couple of them in particular helped us design the platform. So in kind of the way that they think about things. And
what will the platform look like if I'm a user who eventually gets a chance to use LienFi? What does it look like? Does it look like Aave? Am I logging in and am I buying a stable coin that's backed by these liens? Or what does it look like?
Yeah. So phase one, which is coming in days here, for the folks that signed up for early access. What it's going to look like is not like Aave, or not like Morpho, or not like Moonwell. It'll look more like a marketplace with actual properties, where you can click through, look at the property, view details on the property, see what the face value is, see what the interest rate is, see what the return is. Because the other thing is, some of these instruments, in the case of a 5% penalty, if you buy something at a 5% penalty, it doesn't accrue the interest rate. If you buy it for $100, it's worth $105. So if you buy it for $100, and then in 1 month it redeems for $105, that means in 1 month you made 5% and you get 60% annualized return, even though the face value was. And a lot of these liens redeem very, very quickly, where you can roll them into other instruments. So it'll look more like that in the first phase, where you're individually filtering, looking for your particular assets that you might be
It's
interested in.
it's build your own portfolio.
It's
Sounds
build your
like.
own. It's the Lego pieces right now for this first phase, but these Lego pieces could do a lot of really cool things. And one of the last things, and Toady, you're a founder. You're great at this. Like, I've never viewed you as someone who goes out and says things and hypes things, and like it. One of the things I want to be very careful about. There are so many incredible things we could do. There are so many features that we know we could put to work. But we're launching the platform right now. It's not bare bones at all. It's robust and it's detailed, but these little Lego pieces can do a lot. And one of the things in the real world is if you hold these pieces, people are begging to lend you money on them because of the fact that they know they redeem. If using a tax lien as collateral is as good as, I mean, they redeem it at very high rates. Moody's has done studies in the past that rates these as the highest grade you could get. I haven't seen a study for Moody's on tax liens since maybe it's been a while, but just so people will love to lend against these assets. So once you have these assets on chain, to think that folks can maybe borrow against these positions while they're accruing. There are a number of really interesting things we could do. Now we're waiting.
Is the vision to do that type of stuff in-house or to tokenize them in a way that they're composable with other DeFi apps, or both?
We'll see. I think both would be great, but we definitely have a pathway to do that in-house.
That's cool. That's really exciting. For some reason, I kind of had a different vision about what the platform would look like. So I'm glad I asked, because I think a lot of people are in a similar situation. And to me, it kind of sounds interesting. It's almost like you get a digital, you get to go down to the lien to the lien market, digitally, and pick and choose what you want to buy.
That's exactly right. And then obviously there's these are not property acquisition strategies, but running a again, separate entity, but on the fund side, with you're running a fund, you buy thousands and thousands of liens every year. It ends up happening. So it'll end up happening on the platform, and there'll be folks that hold one of these positions that doesn't get redeemed. And they're like, wait a second, I didn't get my principal and interest back. We'll say, well, there's more, and we'll be rolling out some details on what that looks like and how folks can. It'll be really nice.
Wait, you mean so the but wait, there's more means you got a property? Is that what you're saying?
Not quite.
Okay, all right.
So there will be scenarios on the platform where a lien ends up in that rare needle in a haystack, just the rarest of rare outcomes. And when that happens, then you're taking the property and it's being disposed of, and there's upside associated with that. So.
I like what I'm hearing. I'm hearing a jackpot sirens going off like the casino sounds. One in 1,000 liens. Who knows what could happen?
Crypto loves to gamble, and tax liens are not really There's not really gambling with tax. It's just they're very boring. Think about that. So sure. I'm working with PowerFi as my first client. Then we get tax liens. I'm like, this is just boring. Like I like the crypto stuff. But boring is very good in many cases, especially for institutions that are looking for consistent yield and diversification. But again, yes, there are other components to these instruments that over time can become lottery ticket type scenarios, and maybe there will be people that are really good at analyzing, which pieces could potentially end up in those scenarios. Like
the people who become experts at at predicting things on prediction markets.
Prediction market guys that just become they'll find out, they'll look into the homeowner and say, oh my gosh, this guy's got this. I think people will. There's definitely hidden alpha within the tax lien space that we employ here in analyst work that we do. There's definitely hidden alpha, and I keep telling my team and partners, I'm like, crypto people are some of the smartest people in the world. Doesn't go for all of them, but there are some really, really smart people, and the people that want to deploy capital at size, there's a lot of them that do the work. And there are a lot
Not
of
only are they
tools.
smart, but they love looking for an edge. I
They
feel
love
like
looking
that's
for an edge, yeah. And they'll figure stuff out. And the tools that we have at our fingertips now makes it even easier. So
very cool. Let's shift gears and talk about the token briefly before we let you get back to your day. The token launched last week, LFI. Great launch, I think. It was you know, I don't know if you would call it a stealth launch, but it wasn't like super announced when it would happen, and you kind of had to be paying attention. I unfortunately was hosting a Twitter Spaces when it launched, but I top blasted anyway when I saw it, because I know you build and you put your head down and you build things. And it's had quite a run. I think it went almost to 10 million, if not higher, recently. Good start out for the token. I'd love to hear a little bit about your thoughts when designing the token, the tokenomics, and any plans you can share for what the token will do with regards to the platform.
yeah, for sure. So we chose Bankr as the launch partner for
Full circle moment.
Yeah, full circle moment. And you know, it's tough because I love so many of the things, like obviously Clanker I think has changed so much over the years, but you know, it was tough deciding on how are we going to launch this thing. And we are building LienFi with an agentic future in mind, and some really interesting things that we're going to hopefully be able to do in that regard. And Bankr's built some incredible infrastructure around that, and also built some custom distribution mechanisms into the contract for TGE. So
Nice.
the way that the
yes, thank you for the airdrop, by the way. Bankr Club member reporting.
Top 500.
That's right.
Top 500, yeah. So yeah, the Bankr Club continues to really good things happen there, and it's just a great group of folks. There's a lot of really cool people that have supported that. So the token chose Bankr as our launch partner. There are really two buckets right now that aren't, two buckets that are not circulating right now. One is team and advisors. So team allocation's 20%, has a 12-month cliff, followed by 36 months of linear. So it's a 4-year kind of all in on the team, full lock until the first 12 months. And then advisors at 7%. So if you see the largest holder in the contract right now, it says 27%. That's broken out 20% team with a 4-year, but 12-year, 4-year total, but 12-year initial lock. And then the additional 7% on top of that is the advisors. The advisors have a 6-month lock and then 18-month after that, so a total of 2 years compared to the team of 4. And then to get to that 37, there's a 10% sleeve for ecosystem incentives, and we're going to roll out exactly what that looks like soon, and what that's going to look like. But just to think about some of the things that
is that vested too, by the way, or is that unlocked? Is that vested also, or is it unlocked already and ready for deployment?
We have it designed for 3 to 5 years of ecosystem incentives. It's not in a locked contract, so full transfer. That's liquid right now in a multi-sig, and we're going to be publishing the plans for that and what folks can expect around that, and also leaving some flexibility as well, because things can change in the space. So that's that. And then the rest was in the liquidity pool and airdrop. And the plans for the token, so LienFi is going to be integrated deeply within the LienFi ecosystem. And there are some mechanisms that we're putting in place to create alignment between the token and the ecosystem. And not to box ourselves up in too much, but premium liens may require a certain level of holding liens, or a certain level of LienFi being held. Incentives on top of initial yields might require LienFi being held and in a certain way. And there's also, we're waiting on final notes on the Clarity Act, because there's a number of really creative things that we can do. We'll find out how creative we need to be able to do. So yeah, not to box.
A DeFi story as old as time. See how much we have to finagle to comply with regulations. Hopefully we're close. It sounds like we're close.
As we roll stuff out, we'll be announcing it as we go.
Amazing. I don't want to take up too much more of your time because it's been amazing to catch up with you and tell people your story and hear about what you're building. Maybe you could just tell us what you're most excited about over the next 6 months in terms of what you're going to be rolling out with LienFi and what people should expect.
Yeah, so over the next, obviously getting the early access launched in the coming days here, getting that up and running so folks can see what we've put together. Then full production launch shortly thereafter. Hopefully within a week or two after. We want to see how things are going and let the early access users be somewhat of a guinea pig before we go
soon,
on.
though. I was expecting longer than a week or two, so that's coming pretty quickly.
We'll see. We'll see, and we'll see how that goes.
Are the early access folks, are they retail, are they institutions, are they a mixture?
Mix of both. Yep, mix of both. So, and then we're launching with one state, Florida. So when we go live, it'll be confined to Florida, but very shortly thereafter, we'll be launching in additional states. We already have all the inventory, so we don't have to go and procure the inventory. We have significant multiple millions in inventory ready for the platform. So launching additional states and then launching tax deeds as well out of Texas within the first 6 months. And tax deeds out of Texas are very interesting. They're similar to tax liens, but they're much higher ticket. The cost of them are much higher, so you may be paying 30 to 50% of the assessed value of the property, but the penalty rate is upwards of 25, and it's a very short shot clock. Texas does not play. If you think you own your house in Texas, don't pay your taxes, and then give me a call in 6 months, and you'll see you really don't.
Interesting.
So
just a different risk profile, essentially.
Different risk profile, higher dollar amount, but much higher yield, and also so significantly higher yield, different risk profile. Exactly right. So that's we've got the inventory ready for that as well. So not just launching in Florida, early access right now, launch production with early access still kind of Florida still going, and then adding additional states, and then some of the other pieces that I mentioned as well. These assets are, this could be post 6 months. We'll have to see how things are going, but these assets are pristine for lending. These assets, there are a number of really exciting things we could do, and that we're working on.
One thing I think that is really exciting about what you're building and what others are building in the on-chain space is just the opening up of opportunities to the average retail investor that previously were only really available to institutions or family offices or wealthy people who are often thinking about how to get diversified yield that is going to basically have their money making money for them. And now anybody who's listening to this can think, this is my crypto portfolio. I can keep it completely custodial, in my own wallet, but I can use, these on-chain versions of these off-chain investment vehicles to actually do the same thing that rich people are doing and diversify, my portfolio and protect myself and my family's future. And I think that's really bullish.
It's absolutely right. That's access is a major thing, and access is one of the major features of blockchain. I mean, just providing access. So hopefully LienFi is able to do that, and I hope folks like what we built.
Also, there's been a lot of talk recently about the risk-free rate or how risk averse people need to be to put their money in DeFi recently with a lot of the hacks that are happening and whatnot, and a lot of discourse around whether the the risk reward actually makes sense anymore if you're only making 4 or 5% to put your money, to loan your money on one of these platforms, but you could lose it all. Does that really make a lot of sense? So I feel like investors are going to be looking at at least diversifying into different options, and so it's really cool that you guys are stepping in and saying, well, here's something you can do with your ETH, and it's backed by real property in Florida.
Yeah, and then the cool thing is, anybody, if you buy a lien, you can go and these are all public records. So you can go to Miami-Dade County and you can go and search tax liens, and you could search tax lien fund, and we own liens all throughout Florida. So you'll end up seeing, you could verify ownership, at the county level as well. Yeah. So they're pretty cool, and our investors and auditors have, on the fund side, separate entity, have appreciated that because you can go and publicly verify that the ownership, the name on the lien. So that's a pretty cool thing as well.
Yeah, and I think the North Koreans are not coming for Florida land yet, so
Not yet.
you're
Yet.
safe.
Yeah, they might want some yield.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for taking the time. I appreciate it. It's always great to catch up with you. I hope people who are watching learned a lot about you, learned a lot about what you're building, and where could they go if they want to follow along and make sure that they're hearing all the most recent updates about LienFi and everything else that you're building.
Yeah, just at MLeeJr, and it's not Emily Toady, it's at MLeeJr.
I'll check the captions closely when the captions for this
All
episode.
right, captions are the source of truth on this one. But yeah, so at MLeeJr, and then LienFi is at LienFi app. So
amazing. Good luck to your Canes. When do they play again? Tomorrow, I think.
they play tomorrow in Philly. Yeah, so yep.
What series? 1-0, I think, or 2-0. 2-0. Are you going to sweep again? Are you going to sweep your way all the way to the end?
Philly's tough. I mean, Philly's they took the Canes to overtime the other night. We'll see. Crazier things have happened in playoff hockey. I remember in 2019, the Canes. It was their first time back in the playoffs in a decade. Canes versus Washington, the Caps, and the first two were in Washington. Canes go down 0-2, and in the second game, the game went to overtime. And Washington won in overtime in Washington. Now the Canes are coming back to Raleigh down 0-2. They win the next two. Then they win one in Washington up 3-2. Then they lose one. Then it goes to game 7 and the Canes win, move on to the Eastern Conference Finals. So Flyers, they got blown out in game 1 by the Canes. They battled in game 2 and took it to overtime and could have won in overtime. I mean, they were pressing. I thought it was over a couple times. So even though they're down 0-2, I think they know that they could play with the boys. So we will see.
But it was the same
happens.
story with Ottawa, so maybe the Canes just know how to close out. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, good luck to them. Appreciate you very much. This has been a fun stream. I'm going to do some editing on this over the coming days. We'll put together something polished, put it up on our ZEROPOD feed on YouTube and on Spotify. If you're not following us, check us out on Spotify, ZEROPOD, ZERO. POD, and hopefully you guys will enjoy listening back to it, and we'll leave it at that. Maybe we'll even get this episode up on Betterment. That'd be fun. I'll chat with you offline about that. Maybe next Monday or something we'll feature it on Betterment, get it in front of more eyeballs. Cool. Love it. Have a great day, Michael. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thanks, Toady.